And welcome back, everyone, to our Weber State Esports, where we have our League of Legend games here with our CLOL tournament. It's going to be a best of three fearless match where we have Weber State University versus the University of Southern California Esports. This is Varsity. For those of you who are joining us, you know that Thursdays are JV, Saturdays are Varsity.
Yeah, this is kind of a new tournament for Weber State Esports. We were in a different one last semester, so we're excited to see how this wraps up and how we compare to the other teams in this new league.
Yeah. For those of you who have been with us long enough, you remember it was, I think, 2 years ago was the last time we saw CLOL, so it's really nice to be back in it. We've always enjoyed it as we're going to jump right into the draft here. Things going to be more, I'd say, professional band-wise in the way things go. Varsity teams usually tend to be a little bit more slaves to the meta, as Aphelios is going to get banned away. He is decently okay in professional play right now. He is seeing quite a bit of play. Jace getting banned away. For those of you wondering, no, that's not a mid Jace ban. That is not a top Jace ban. That is a jungle Jace ban.
Yeah, Jungle Jace getting some adjustments on this last patch, but still very strong. Weber State responding with a Poppy ban. Usually a solid ban, especially if Weber has something that they want to play around, typically in the bottom lane as far as dashing.
I mean, even you have to think about it is yes, dashing is in the bot lane is really a reason to get rid of Poppy, but also Poppy jungle still is such a threat. Riot wants to get her back in the top lane. They just don't know how to without buffing her in the jungle and as a support. Gwen gonna get taken away as well. It's a little bit of a surprising ban for me. Batal's not really known for playing Gwen, but I think it's a respect more. Gwen is pretty good with some of the newer items. Dusk and Dawn on her is actually absurd.
We see Weber State responding with an Udyr ban. This might be more of a player-specific ban. I would assume that a player on UCS probably is a proficient Udyr player, but nonetheless respecting the Udyr there.
Now, here's my question. Does UCS ban the Rise or do they give it over to Weber, who we know Goku likes his Rise? Now, it doesn't go through, but it's also maybe Weber doesn't want to play it right now. Maybe save it for a later game, as Lucian will get banned away instead. Braum is still up, but not as much of a threat. He's still very good, very strong, but Lucian is one of the best ADCs to play with.
Yeah, Lucian ban definitely solid as we see Weber State lock in a Dr. Mundo first pick. We assume that this would probably be a jungle pick, as usually Dr. Mundo and the jungler can survive a little bit longer or a little bit better than Mundo in the top lane, but still has some flexibility there.
Yeah, it's just one of those fun things. Mundo in the top lane, like you said, will struggle to survive, but in the jungle, he can just kind of farm his way to 3 items and then never die. Though Volibear, I want to say this is a jungle more than a top lane, because Volibear top as a blind pick is rough. Volibear can do good into Mundo. He has a lot of sustain, he has a lot of maximum HP damage with his W. Thresh going to be locked in, so an early support, a lot of these better picks that can strip Mundo of his passive and then still CC him.
Yeah, Thresh has been seeing a lot of play recently. I believe he's received a few minor buffs, but also he just has that utility built into his kit that he's basically always going to be useful if you have a proficient player. Akali and Corki as a response from Weber State Esports. Solid picks. Corki's been very strong with the recent updates, and then Akali as well with the Gunblade being reintroduced into League of Legends.
And we know how much Goku does like his Akali. He's up and down on it. Sometimes he'll struggle early and then he'll just have the most outrageous picks late game. And we, funny enough, see it a lot into the Orianna. Orianna can do really well into Akali, but can also really struggle. Now, once again, we're seeing the coveted Bard ban against Weber State, as Bard hasn't really been touched too much. But the items for him got really good, especially Bandle Pipes Bard is crazy. And so I'm not surprised that they're taking it away from Mystiques.
Yeah, Bard a very good ban into Mystiques. Mystique's kind of a psychopath, and he puts the Bard to very good use. Scion ban response from Weber State, just taking away one of those scary tank top laners that can get very big by the end game. And then another Nico ban targeted at Mystiques again. These psychopath champions, Mystiques, they definitely need to be taken away. So a good ban probably from UCS.
Rail getting banned away is one of the premier engaged supports, which again surprises me a little bit that Weber would ban the rail knowing Thresh has already been picked. It could be something funky. Um, Return of Rail Jungle. That's not actually going to happen, but we liked it when it was there, and then Riot said no, she's only a support and nothing else. Jinx. Okay, that should be very interesting. Jinx very immobile. It makes sense for the Thresh to be in there to get her out of hairy situations. What does Weaver decide to do for their support and their top laners? What I'm assuming, Leona support.
Yeah, Leona's a good pick here. The only issue is that Braum is still available, and or I guess Braum, they won't pick Braum because Thresh is already picked. So Leona's just a good pick overall. She can get onto the Jinx. She can support the Akali and the Mundo on their dive. The main issue with Jinx is she doesn't have a lot of agency. So if Weber State can limit that agency even more by these picks, then they're going to be good to go.
What does Weber decide to do for their top laner? We've seen Batal has a plethora of champions, and I was gonna say we know that he likes his Ambessa. We know that he likes some of these other aggressive top laners. Ambessa blind is actually really good. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a Renekton picked into Ambessa. They're kind of that typical counterbalance. If Renekton gets ahead, Ambessa really struggles, and there we go. Caster cursing it. But Ambessa can do really well into Renekton if she gets ahead. Renekton just gets to a point where she really can't deal with Renekton really can't deal with the amount of just oppression Ambessa can put out.
Yeah, I believe Renekton's stronger in the early game, but as soon as Mbessa hits 3 items, then it just kind of becomes a little bit unbearable. And we've just been told that we've got a little bit of delay. They had to remake the lobby. They had some issues there, so we've just got a second that we're gonna wait for that. But I do want to point out too is technically, I mean, Mbessa has been a huge pick in the jungle. She has incredible clear time, so it could be a Mundo top or an Mbessa top. I would picture, though, with the strength of the Renekton, that Mundo doesn't go top. That sounds a little bit like a struggle lane. And the Weaver State top laner does like to play really strong, aggressive matchups.
Guys, no, I solved it. It's obviously the Akali top. Renekton can't stun you if he can't see you.
Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised at this point. Weaver State are kind of, I mean, we've called Mystique a psychopath, but also the rest of their players are very known for just mixing things up and throwing things probably where they shouldn't be, but it still works.
I will say, I do like Weaver's comp. It is very much a heavy dive comp. I will run at you and kill your back line. You have to think Leona going in and Bessa with the public execution. Mundo just runs at you because he goes where he pleases with an Akali coming from the side lane. That does leave your Corki a little bit exposed. If everyone's going in, Sendy has to play safe. But Corki is a rather safe-ish ADC, does have his Valkyrie to get away. But you look at USC's team, they have a decent engage. You know, Thresh and Volibear can go in to get the Orianna ball in. Renekton can flash in, dash in. But there's no super good delivery mode. But they have way better pill. The Orianna ultimate to pill away, the Thresh to pill. So that is a very good thing to think about.
Yeah, I would almost picture that we're playing more of a medium distance kind of skirmishy peel side from UCS, where they're trying to avoid the Weber State dive, use like what you mentioned, the Orianna Shockwave and the Thresh and the Volibear and even the Renekton stun to try and just keep the Jinx alive. And if they can play for that Jinx, then they should have plenty of damage and plenty of ability to succeed in this game. But Weber State does, like you mentioned, have a lot of go buttons between Leona and Bessa and Akali. They can definitely get to the UCS backline.
All right, so we just got notified that the draft is currently going underway. So hopefully here, very quick, very soon, we should be back. We should be into the game to see how this pans out. What happens now? It's just kind of interesting to see what happens. If Weber can get a lead early, they can easily snowball this game and run away with it. And looking at I'm going to keep saying USC. I am so sorry for any members from USC. I will get it right eventually. Please just forgive me for now.
Yeah, I mean, I think even with an early game lead, both teams have a lot of scaling. Volibear does well in the late game. Jinx does really well in the late game. But then on Weber State's side, we've got a Dr. Mundo who's incredible in the late game. And Bessa, once she gets past 3 items, is nearly unstoppable. So it will definitely be a skirmish throughout the game. They've got a lot of early pressure they can play around with a lot of the easy crowd control and like the Renekton and things on UCS. I shouldn't say easy. A Threshock's not easy to hit, but it's easy to think about as being a very good early game crowd control versus Weber State and how much they can do in these early games. Corky Leona should be well enough to be able to fight off some of that pressure, but they do have a lot to push forward in order to take control of these early objectives.
Now, one of the things I kind of want to think about is build-wise. This Jinx probably going to go for the aggressive scaling build, rely on the Renekton and Orianna early game to get to her late game. You're going to have Volibear spike in the mid game, and then Jinx can scale very late game. Usually it's like your Youngtel Wild Arrows into an Infinity Edge and Runeans. But my thing, I want to talk about Volibear's build. The interesting thing I'm thinking about is I hate this build and don't want to see it. It's the Cocaine Bear, if you've ever heard about it. It's where you build a what is the item? I'm trying to remember the API, the Cosmic Drive into Flicker Blades. And yeah, your W is up insanely quick, but you are so squishy. So maybe I do want to see it because the bear dying quickly is good for Weaver.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting choice. He has a lot of options as far as what he can build. So he definitely has some flexibility. It's just whether or not he can get to those items. Volibear with the right items into the right team comp has so much sustain, so much damage, and so much chase down that he can definitely be a huge threat. I don't see him going too squishy this game because that just means that he's a very good target to be blown up by an Akali, Corki, or Ambessa. But once again, like we said, he just has so many options, and he can definitely skirmish a ton.
Yeah, so I will let you know really quickly. We just got notified again that Riot Spaghetti Code is screwing with us. The lobby crashed once again, so they are currently remaking it as quick as possible again. We are trying to get into game as soon as possible, but for those of you who have been with us, who are tried and true veterans of the Weber State Esport broadcast, we all know and love Riot Spaghetti.
Riot Spaghetti indeed, with an extra side of marinara. The something else that we can mention is Orianna has had a slight nerf this last patch. It's not a direct nerf, but phase rush for ranged users did get nerfed. We've been seeing it a lot in the mid lane, specifically with Orianna and Ryze, and their dominance has been kind of part of this phase rush nerf, so that there's less movement speed for them to be able to escape or to engage. So we'll have to see if the Orianna decides that she needs a phase rush against an Akali. It might be kind of nice to stay away, but she also just might try and go for some early game pressure with maybe an electrocute or something similar along those lines.
Electrocute, you can also go for scaly burst, maybe an airy instead to do a little bit of chip damage as well as increase shielding. Speaking of shielding, I wanted to mention, I'm looking at these team comps and going, okay, you have Thresh, Orianna, and Volibear who shield themselves. So that's 3 members. And then you have Leona that shields herself and Ambessa that shields herself. So my thoughts are, when is enough shielding on a team to buy a Serpent's Fang, and who buys it? My thoughts for USC is I don't really see someone who would like to buy it to apply it. Yes, you could say, oh, Renekton could buy it, but it's so bad on Renekton because he's primarily single target. Yes, his Q, Meek, can do it, but you don't want it there. But Jinx isn't going to buy it, and then no one else is buying it. Ambessa, on the other hand, I kind of find is funny. Could do it. So that should be interesting. Corki can also kind of do it. It's weird. It would be funky. But when it's just one of those funny things that I always look at in team comps. When is enough shielding enough to buy a Serpent's Fang? And I personally don't think there's enough in this game funny enough for a Serpent's Fang to come out. The shields just aren't big enough and consistent enough. You're not having a Lulu. You're not having a Janna, these annoying enchanters where you really need it.
Yeah, well, and if you are akin to this, Death Baka is the biggest Serpent's Fang merchant. I think probably this side of the Mississippi. Accusations definitely well justified. I don't believe there is enough shields on this team. The Renekton actually does shred shields if he uses his empowered W, so he should be able to deal with the Mbessa shielding just fine. The Thresh shield and the Oriana shield, not really a huge deal. The Volibear shield, if he gets ahead, I don't know if he's ahead, if it's justified to buy the item, and if you just need more damage, just in general, to so you can deal with people in general on the other team.
Yeah. So just got some more information. All we are waiting on now is the spectator delay. So another 2 minutes now at this point, and we will be in Rift seeing how things go. I want to make mention of the Volibear shield that you were mentioning. If you just kill him before his E goes off, there's no shield to deal about.
Well, and with Cocaine Bear build, maybe that's a possibility. However, I don't know if I doubt he goes for that as much as maybe I'd like to see it because it is quite a fun build. I think the Volibear needs to pay attention to scaling at the same pace that the Dr. Mundo does. And I don't know if that build quite pulls it off as much as we would like it to.
Well, and my thoughts are, is if Volibear is going full damage, you have Thresh and Renekton as your tanks. Renekton's going to be a bruiser, might not even be a bruiser, could go, the Eclipse, Spear of Sojin, Blade build, like the blow you up in one hit to try to kill the Ambessa before Ambessa does anything, kill the Corki, kill the Akali, and then leave them Leona and Mundo for Jinx. And if he does that, it leaves Thresh alone as the solo tank, which Corki, Akali, and Ambessa will absolutely shred it. Not to mention Mundo. Mundo's cleaver's maximum current HP damage. So there are some things to think about as, again, we should be very, very shortly loading into the Rift here. Thank you so much for dealing with us and dealing with the delays that we've had to do due to the spaghetti code.
Yes, and I've always kind of considered Thresh half a tank. He gets a lot of armor naturally because of his passive. However, he just has a hard time having enough gold to really build true tank items. And when he does get focused, then he goes down pretty quickly. We were just notified that we've got 2 minutes left on the spectator delay. Just some of the CLOL rules make it so that we have to respect the delay and install for a little bit more time to make sure that the game is being played fairly and that neither player or team has an advantage, especially where they're allowing us to stream.
All right. I will say at this point, for those of you who have been here long enough with Weber State, you will know that at times like these, where delays are long, I pull out really bad league jokes. I can feel the cringe already coming through, but it has to happen. So, everyone, why can you never lock Yasuo out of his house?
Tell me why, Death Baka. Tell me why.
Well, less than good. It's because he always has a key.
Ouch. It hurts. It hurts. Can we windwall that joke away?
I don't know.
Preferably.
That was a pretty bad response from if I do say so myself. I'm waiting for the chat to blow up at me and give me the threats of never doing it again. But what else do you do at times like these where you have to just simply sit and wait? We've talked about the peel versus dive comp. We've talked about the shields. We've talked about builds. Chat, if you can hear me now, give me something else to talk about.
No, it should be a fun game. A reminder that Weber State is blue side USC, maybe appropriately at red side due to the team logos. Once again we'll be loading in here fairly quickly.
Should be within the next minute or so. It always feels like when you're waiting for just like a minute or two to pass is the slowest minute in existence. So looks like we have gotten the thumbs up that we will be loading on to Summoner's Rift, so you can stop listening to me babble about nothing and listen to me babble about the game instead.
And we do have confirmation now. It is Mundo top into Renekton with an Mbessa jungle into the Volibear jungle. So this should be an interesting matchup. As we mentioned, Batal really loves playing these skirmishy kind of fighting early game champions. So it'll be fun to see him on a Dr. Mundo and to see how he does into a Renekton.
I've played this matchup as both the Renekton and the Mundo, and it is actually very much skill matchup. Renekton has to burn the Mundo passive before Volibear comes for a gank.
Yes, very true. And some of the timing on that can be hard because the Renekton W, how often it is up versus how often the Mundo passive is up. It can be a very definite timing thing, which I believe the players can be able to play around. Now, something else I'm interested to see is how the Ambessa clears the jungle. We've seen reports of Faker clearing the jungle on Ambessa in, I believe he finishes around 2 minutes and 40 seconds. He does it pretty lightning fast. So we'll have to see if U is on that current technology.
Well, and my thoughts is that they know that Renekton is a counter pick into the Ambessa, quote unquote. So they're putting Ambessa, the aggression that you likes, in the jungle where she is safe to scale, get those items. As, yeah, we're coming in here as it's a flash for flash trade, as the Orianna will get the kill onto Goku as, yeah, 4 summoners blown in the mid lane. The exhaust pivotal there for the Orianna to get that kill. But you now possibly able to find something. Could look to flash and just finish this off. Yep, will do so. Free kill donated over to you. Will hold the wave so that Goku doesn't lose too much more.
Yeah, heads up play from you to be able to make sure that Goku doesn't lose too much on there. It's kind of interesting to see an exhaust on the Orianna in the mid lane, especially where mid laners have been taking more of these aggressive summoner spells this patch. So Goku with the Ignite, Orianna with the exhaust, definitely a game changer considering how close that fight was. So good choice from this UCS mid laner.
Yeah, but I was talking about earlier, getting you accelerated is exactly what Weber likes to do, and that is a kill on Ambessa. So once he clears this jungle, he's going to have quite a bit of gold actually to mess around with. But no exhaust anymore means that Goku is feeling very free to start harassing Orianna as much as he can.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this phase rush works out for the Orianna, and it should. I think the key is to be able to time it around when the Orianna has a shroud so that she can be able to escape and avoid a lot of that excess energy usage or gain that that Goku will be able to get here. We see both junglers trading top and bottom scuttle crabs. They're both able to get those resources that they need at this time.
Ooh, I kind of like the cheeky shuriken flip there from Goku, making it look like he's going to go for the minion, thinking Orianna's going to walk up as you will go ahead and be caught on this ward. We'll go ahead and clear it and get a back in. I'll be interested to see how much can he buy as he went red egg. Very aggressive.
Yeah, red egg is a pretty solid choice here because it allows them just to continue to get the slows on Ambessa. Usually they'll take the rune that allows them to have better movement speed against slows. As we see a Volibear showing in the top lane in a lane gank, he doesn't quite make it, and the Mundo just is able to back off. Renekton also killed enough of the wave that it should push back into him, so it's very convenient there.
Yeah, I think one of the things is Renekton was looking to possibly go for a double dash in as Goku, getting a little feisty here, will get the kill with the Ignite and the Shroud coming up. Yeah, Ignite is just such a lower cooldown than Exhaust. So you can use it about twice as much as you use Exhaust. So here in the bot lane, Mystiques and Sendy going in as looks like a little bit more of some technical difficulties coming in here. We're going to leave it at that. It came back quick. Looks like the mid laner just DC'd. We'll be back. I'm expecting that we'll get another short pause here. We know how Riot Spectator with pauses go. There we go. I speak of the devil and it arrives.
Yeah, just another little short pause. That engagement in the bot lane we see, it might be what we can kind of expect this game. We see the Leona going in and the Thresh just being able to counter and use his utility to be able to stall and get more damage back onto her. We talked about Thresh being sort of a half tank in these games. However, Leona is kind of a half tank because she is full tank when her W's up, and when the W is down, it may be a little bit less so in that department.
Yeah, Leona definitely is a better tank than Thresh, though, what you were mentioning. Her W is just insane, her ability to do things. Though Batal here on the top side, just clearing things very slow, very gently, gonna get as much back, and Goku really pressing this advantage now. He has a kill, and he really wants to get as much done, hit level 6, and maybe look for a possible dive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Goku pushing his limit, showing that he knows his knowledge check here on the Akali versus Orianna matchup. That's kind of these sort of explosive matchups where the Orianna has a lot of harass, but then the Akali has a lot of burst. You really have to tiptoe around the Orianna's abilities and timings so that he can be able to maximize his damage and honestly even just survive in the lane. We see both of them trading on equal HP as we a gank coming in for the bot lane. Thresh does manage to run the hook around a minion as Leona will be stunned up by the Volibear exhaust going on to the Corki. Leona trying to walk out, however, USC does have enough damage and crowd control to be able to secure the kill on the Leona.
Yeah, I have to question Mystique's going in there a little bit. They saw the Volibear on the ward, knew he was around, and yet decided to still walk up and be in an area where that could happen. One of the things I do want to mention, I've noticed, is that this is probably going to be Cocaine Bear. He has a blasting wand in his inventory. That is not your normal tank, as Goku in the mid lane goes for the dive, but does not get the kill by probably about 50 HP. Probably a difference in exhaust. He got exhausted again during that dive. But we'll be back up. We'll have his ultimate and ignite ready to kill Orianna before her ult and exhaust is back up. Surprisingly though, even with the kill onto Leona, Weber gets first dragon.
Yeah, they just kind of had a tempo shift there. USC did have to back off, and U was showing around the bot lane, so they just didn't have enough tempo to be able to confidently take the dragon there. We do see the Volibear picking up a Sheen, so this is going to be the Dusk and Dawn version of Volibear, which has been very popular this patch. So we'll have to see how he's able to pull that off and what it looks like in these skirmishes. Goku again just showing that he's a little fearless. He knows the exhaust and the shockwave are both down, so he's trying to play into Ambitious face. However, like we mentioned, he doesn't have some of his resources. He's also a level down, which hurts a lot in this early game. But we'll have to see if he can play it, and if, like we mentioned, he can get this next ult rotation to have some more success now that he has the ignite up.
Yeah, Sendy and Jinx both having their 6 means that things could happen. A flash coming in could be very good. Ultimate's not ready, but this public execution getting hit. Sendy gonna have to barrier out. The Dark Passage gonna go ahead and get Jinx out, but it's going to be a donated kill over to Sendy. Exactly what Weaver wants. You has to be careful here. Will run into a bear, but will do a lot of damage to get shielded, but the Stormbreaker coming in will be a lot. Leona doing so much to slow down this Volibear, but again, we've said it before, he is not tanky, he is damaged. Leona gonna go ahead and get the stun off, get the cleanse, but Jinx gets excited. Weaver might have bitten off more than they can chew. You gonna go into the trap, and that is a triple kill over to Jinx. Not what you want to see.
Yeah, just a little bit of maybe a spacing error there from Weber State. They were too far away to get just that last little bit of damage onto the Jinx. And we do see, as predicted, the Goku trade. He used both the Ignite and the ult to kill the Orianna. Orianna did respond with an ult as well, so she doesn't have that utility at her expenditure anymore. But by the next cycle, it looks like she will have the exhaust again. So we might just see a continuous cycle of maybe Goku trading his life for exhaust and then taking another kill back when he gets his cycle up.
Should be very interesting, but because the deaths on the bot side will mean that Volibear does feel comfortable in taking these grubs. It's a dragon for grubs trade. Oh my gosh, I didn't want to say that again.
Yeah, it looks like they have pressure in the mid lane with Goku being pushed in, as well as the Mundo not being the most healthy and being pushed in. So USC should be able to take these grubs and secure them handily.
And this is a very aggressive Ambessa build. Profane Hydra.
Yeah, the Profane Hydra has been pretty nice on Ambessa in the jungle. At least some sort of a Tiamat item so that she can be able to clear rather quickly. I see probably this Ambessa build to be, I land my ult on a Jinx or an Orianna and we just blow them up as soon as we can, which honestly not a bad strategy when there's a lot of eggs in some of those baskets.
Sendy with his 6 feels a lot more comfortable being able to farm from range, as Orianna could be in very much a lot of trouble. Gonna hit the public execution. Looked like they thought it was gonna miss. It will go ahead and return with a shockwave, but it's not enough. Thresh went in onto Sendy And Mystique's looks like just maybe got caught. The exhaust went down as well. Not going to be what he wants. The Super Mega Death Rocket from Jinx in return to try to clear the wave, get some damage down, but doesn't do the things they wanted. And Yu simply goes back to clearing the jungle, will farm up, and now a possible trap being laid by Weber State's bot lane.
Yeah, a very aggressive early game from both sides. It's fun to see that they're both able to hold their own and kind of punch back and forth. If we look at the total gold difference, Weber State's only ahead by 300 gold, which isn't a ton at this point in the game. So it's fun to see that both teams are able to again hold their own and kind of punch back and forth. They know their timings, they know their cooldowns, and they're confident to be able to stand their ground on them.
The important thing that I've seen here is that the item difference is pretty big slightly big in Weber's favor. Akali has the Gunblade here, and that's probably going to mean that it's just a kill right here. Unfortunately, the exhaust and the missing the second part of perfect execution doesn't mean they're safe. Can't get to the Dark Passage yet, as the 5-point strike will come back up quick enough for Goku to do things. Mystique's going in on Thresh, Blast Cone away, having to be used. It will be a donated blue buff over to you. Yes, you viewers.
It looks like this is kind of an interesting timing. Dragon will be coming up here in 24 seconds. Now, Goku not having his ult, the Orianna will be spawning, and she will have her ult, and will be able to make it to this fight in time. So it'll be interesting to see if the teams actually decide to group up and fight for the Dragon, or if they're just going, or if one side or the other is just going to concede. As we see, Weber State, the Leona got caught out by the Thresh. However, they have an Mbessa and a Corki here ready to fight, and they're able to take that trade 2-for-1 with both of the bottom laners on USC going down. That might be, even though the Orianna does have her ult, it should be enough pressure for Weber just to comfortably take this Dragon.
Yeah, and importantly, both of those went over to you. Jinx got the 5th kill and then died. That's an even bigger shutdown onto you. Crazy what he's going to do. He's so far ahead. Going to probably finish his jungle item, his jungle role quest here very soon, as he's going to take this crab and probably go back, take his red buff, take his raptors back, buy another full item at this point, I'm assuming.
Yeah, very good position. Very, if I'm the Mbessa playing in this game, I would be very excited to have this much of a lead. And now we'll just have to see if he can translate it into these later game team fights. As we see an engage in the top lane, Batal recalling on a ward, and the Volibear and Renekton able to jump in on him. However, there is a friendly Leona here to support. Orianna is roaming up though. She does have that shockwave available. We see the Mundo 1v1ing the Volibear, and now Leona also being chased down by a Renekton. The Leona will go down, but the Volibear does go down as Goku is able to show up in the top lane and give the perfect execution. He has the Ignite down on the Orianna. Surprise, a Corki has also arrived to fight for Weber State. We have a flash W from the Renekton though, and that does eliminate Akali. So now we just have Batal and Sendy trying to fight off a Renekton and Orianna, which they are able to do so successfully. So overall, a 2-for-4 trade, 2-for-3 trade for Weber State side, and it looks like they do have a push to be able to get some turret platings on the top side as well.
Unfortunately for you, the perfect execution they're going to miss means it is a guaranteed give of a shutdown over to this Jinx. It will also be first tower for them. Doesn't feel great. The missed throw, unfortunate. And once again, we have a bear back in the top lane looking for this Mundo. Will be seen on a ward, but Tao gonna go ahead and slow him down. But once again, I've said it multiple times, you just see how squishy the bear is. Yes, he's gonna go ahead and get his passive going, and probably, I was gonna say probably kill Batal, but it wasn't enough of a low HP target. Batal will walk into a Jinx rocket.
Ooh, it looks like the Jinx rocket was called, but he just wasn't quite sure if he needed to go up or down. He hesitated and unfortunately does get hit by it. This Jinx is going to be very huge for this UCS late game. She's got a ton of farm, 7-1. Gonna have 2 completed items already at 14 minutes. She can definitely be a threat. We'll have to see if she has the feat on her to be able to stay alive in some of these late game team fights.
The nice thing for Weber, though, if Jinx is still fed, is that if you hit a public execution, she is dead. It's just a simple matter of fact, is that you're going to die if you get hit by a public execution.
Oh, and Jinx opting to take the new item here. I forget exactly what it's called. It's the little spyglass there. It basically allows her to have an extra 100 range if she gets a kill. it kind of feeds into this Jinx hyper carry fantasy where if she does get the first kill, she will be dealing a ton of damage here.
I believe it's something along the lines of something weird number hex optics.
Yes, Hex Optics something. But so excited to see that. That can be a very fun item, especially when you do have a Runans, because the Runans range just continues to extend with the range of your champion. So if the Jinx is shooting it with 850 range, then she will just be able to do work. As we see the Renekton in the top lane actually able to solo kill the Akali. I'm not horribly surprised by that, especially because the Renekton has anti-heal and the Akali went Gunblade first.
Yeah, and Renekton is also just really strong. If you lock down the Akali, you will burst her pretty quickly. It looks like Goku also got just too close to tower, possibly. A dive, though, here, gonna come through as Batao gonna be in a little bit of a pickle here. Gonna clear away as much as he can, be as annoying. But those cleavers just do so much damage. But Shelly just doesn't care. We'll take this tower. Batao gonna go ahead and take Shelly away from the map. You hunting, possibly, for something interesting. Gonna stop the backs as you now hunting, thinking, we'll get the flash out of the Thresh.
Yeah, good heads up from Weber to like really track where the UCS players were recalling at. That was a blind rocket by the Corki, but he just knew where the Thresh was and was able to stop him from recalling. A good reaction on the flash from the Thresh. If that public execution does hit, then it could also lead to a kill on his teammate, the Jinx there, so a good response from him.
Things slowing down ever so slightly. Weber has 2 dragons, yet USC has the Void advantage, I would say, because they have the Void Grubs and they had Shelly, which got them a turret. Now, once again, Goku gonna go in. The exhaust is used, but Goku, not knowing, doesn't matter, will trade his life in the end. Not what you really want to see, Goku, but we can't complain too much. You killed the Orianna, got all of her things out. Batao now here, throwing cleavers at a bear. Sendy gonna have to run away, but Batao, fearless, running forward. Mystique's going in with the Zenith Blade. We'll have to flash out as Weber having to play this very precarious game of chicken.
Yeah, a lot of resources used here from both sides, but more important, I think the Orianna is crucial for an upcoming team fight, which the Dragon did just spawn. So not being able to have the Orianna Shockwave available, I would say is a bigger deal than having the public execution available for Weber State side. So we'll have to see if they can pull this team fight together. Importantly, the Renekton ult was also used, and Weber State has the other 4 ultis on their team members still remaining. So they should have somewhat of an advantage in this fight, but it kind of does come down to execution and where the crowd control does land. So we see Thresh going for another aggressive hook. Elevation difference making it miss. Batao is fighting 2v1 in this jungle as he does push off the Renekton and the Orianna. Renekton forced to recall, although he does have teleport available. We see Leona jumping in onto the Volibear. Volibear forced to channel his ult away in order to survive and not have the crowd control. We see Akali disrupting in the middle. She's able to get a lot of damage down on the Jinx. The Corki is able to finish off the Orianna, and the Mundo finish off the Jinx as well. We see Weber State chasing down once again a Volibear and a Renekton, just able to put the right pieces in the right place, lay down enough damage, and take a 4-for-0 trade against UCS.
Yeah, UCS walked too far forward near that bush where you can see the control ward, and Goku was waiting in there. The moment they walked forward, he got onto the Orianna and Jinx, used his perfect execution to get them low. Jinx flashes away into use public execution.
Yeah, rather unfortunate series of events there. And sorry, we keep saying UCS, USC. We should just call them the Trojans. That is their mascot. However, a good team fight. Now Weber State is on Soul Point here against the Trojans.
I will say, I'm just bad at names. Usually we have the really cool icons up in the top corner. They've been really buggy, and I would see the USC logo up in the top and be able to look at it when I say the name, but Trojans might also be just really good for my stupid league brain.
I'll take Trojans in my own pocket. Anyways, the Weber State, if we look at the total difference in advantages here, Weber State really only up just under 3,000 gold as we see Mystique's opting to 1v1 a Volibear in the jungle. Again, maybe some more of that psychopath behavior on him, just standing there menacingly as he does blast out from a blast cone. Weber State up 3,000 gold, but I think more importantly, they have soul points, so they have a lot of pressure in their pocket. We see a lot of games won, or at least the difference in games by the pressure that can cause, where they can either trade a Baron for a Dragon because they're a soul point and the enemy team has 0, so it's just an easy take for them.
You actually, funny enough, not getting the steal like he wanted to, and that's possibly going to lead to his death as he's going to get run down. Jinx going to start getting unleashed. Sendy going to go ahead and take some damage to the face as Goku and Batao now here on the chase. Weber even down the jungler, not afraid. Renekton is not here, so Batao is saying, let's choke them out.
Yeah, this is a 4 versus 4 temporarily as we see the Thresh jump in, and he does get the hook crucially on Sendy. However, Goku is able to get onto that back line and just blow them up. This is a 1-for-3 trade. Weber State is down a jungler, but so is USC, and it looks like they're just going to opt to starve this dragon. USC with not a lot of stealing potential, with only a Thresh and a Renekton alive.
Yeah, the Corki damage was so underrated. He, before that, was 7-1, had his Essence Reaver and Collector. The Gatling gun damage from Corki is nothing to be trifled with. Renekton here needs to play his cards right. Goku going in, possibly as a sacrificial lamb to slow things down, to get Renekton killed so they can turn back on to the Baron and finish it. Batao going to just go ahead and tank away, and now U is back. USC trying their darndest to get back in. The Jinx rocket used, but Batao, knowing that Jinx wants to go for it, stands close enough that the damage won't happen. Not that you could really outsmite a jungler anyway. They did change Jinx Rocket like a year ago so that it does like a maximum of 900 damage to monsters. Kind of sucks. I liked Jinx Rocket's Baron snipes.
Yeah, I think they adjusted it so it's like it could steal the old smite, but with the new smite damage numbers, it's a lot harder to be able to pull off. The Renekton in that team fight did do, well, I don't know if it's a team fight as he kind of went in alone, but he did do a good job at getting the damage down onto the Kali and was able to remove her from that play. However, he just didn't have enough utility and probably even enough items to be able to continue the fight, and he was just taken out. He's currently just sitting on 1 completed item plus his boots, so not a lot of power there that we would like to see from a Renekton in a situation like that.
Yeah, this having to stop and get your Executioner's Calling is just so frustrating into Mundo, and it's at this point where Batao doesn't even care that you're giving him a healing cut. He's dealing enough damage to win the fight through the healing cut. Didn't even pop his ultimate.
Yeah, Batao just showing that he is quite a bit ahead here. He may need to pop his ulti here to walk out, as 4 members of USC are here to be able to fight, but he just flash ease the Renekton and shows how much damage Amundo really can do. And he's going for that full push build as he does get the Titanic Hydra finished up here. Goku missing the second part of his perfect execution on the Orianna, but it doesn't matter as he's just able to hit the Shuriken flip and take her out from this bot lane fight. Sendy, however, is caught out in this mid lane. He does get a well-timed Valkyrie buffer against the Volibear stun, but enough members of this team might be here to chase him down. He does sidestep the Jinx blast, but now the rest of the members of Weber State are here just to walk Sendy out as he gets away on 10 HP.
Yeah, the barrier was late from Sendy. He took the damage and then his barrier went off. That was terrifying, as USC actually looking possibly to take the dragon that instantly spawned, knowing Weber's on a back timer. They had to go back because of low things, but U is here, and Renekton in a bad position, but Weber collapsing very well. Goku gonna get hit, unfortunately, possibly gonna die here. U simply gonna say, I'm gonna get us the dragon, and then I'm gonna get out. A Kali for Renekton. Once again, the trade that keeps happening. Sendy just doing crazy damage, will end up dying in the end. You thinking what he wants to do, probably gonna just flash out, doesn't have the cooldowns. Could go back in with the public execution, will go ahead and do so. Unfortunately, the stun from the shockwave gonna make Thresh miss his ultimate. The Jinx rocket gonna go wide. Jinx now in a bad position. The shielding not enough from Orianna, and Orianna could be in a very bad position here. Will go ahead and slow the Mundo. but Yu is way ahead of him. Mundo gonna go ahead and do what he pleases and get a triple. Batao, calm down.
Yeah, this Mundo definitely has kind of hit his breaking point on where he might become a little bit unstoppable, especially if USC is not able to put their damage rightfully into him. A beautiful play from you to be able to flash out and then decide and see the angle for him to go back in with the public execution onto the Thresh. Weber State kind of known for their scrappy team fighting and where they can kind of push and pull around on these outskirts, and you'll see a lot of these micro 2v1s where they're able to jump in and just annihilate a member of the opposing team, and they played that pretty well. Especially with you getting in and being able to secure the Dragon Soul, that is a huge game changer for them. They have a lot of impactful ultimates that really appreciate that extra movement speed that comes from having that soul.
And then, not to mention, since it is a Cloud Soul, the out of combat movement speed, really good for Akali and Corki.
Yeah, being able to navigate, as we do see the Leona ult going down onto the Jinx. Jinx does have a cleanse that she does pop something, except her cleanse cooldown doesn't line up. Oh, she has a Quicksilver. She has a Quicksilver and a cleanse, so she does pop the Quicksilver to be able to stay alive. Probably a good call to get that Quicksilver, considering how impactful that crowd control is on her and how important she is in this game. However, Mystiques does get caught out here as 5 members of USC are here in this top lane. They are able to eliminate a Corki and a Leona. Weber State able to take a lot of other advantages here on the map, though. They do take the bottom side inhibitor. They do knock a lot of health off of one of those Nexus turrets. So not a horrible loss from him, but UCS doing a good job to try and regroup and get some gold back by taking some shutdowns on a key member of Weber State, being that Corki.
Yeah, but you have to think about it. It's a 5-item Jinx and a 4-item Corki, but Corki is just pumping damage from so far away. Jinx doing it too, to be honest. The real difference here is Orianna at this point is an R bot. She is there to push R and do what she can. She's not doing everything you would really want her to do. Volibear kind of doing the same thing. If he can get a Q onto you and stun you and set things up, that's great. We were being very just happy with what they got. Leona is frustrating with her Bandle Pipes, Zeke's Convergence build. Like, Mystiques, you're insane. There are 3 members here. You probably know that they're all around, and you're fighting for a crab. I love Mystiques. The man is insane.
Yeah, he definitely knows how to push his boundaries. I mean, sometimes he does get caught off, but we see him catching an ulti onto the Thresh. Not really an ideal target, and he didn't have other members of his team around to be able to support him fully. We do see Batao putting some pressure here on the base as well. As we've seen, he can 1v1 that Mundo. Mystiques, again, getting caught out by a Jinx Zap, and then followed up by the Thresh crowd control, so they are able to take him out. Goku trying to play around this, but the exhaust does go on him. The Orianna Shockwave was forced out, however, it does barely miss him. Goku having just enough movement speed with those upgraded boots to be able to get out. Yu, it looks like, does go in with a public execution. However, the exhaust was laid on him, but it's just not enough to be able to take him down. Jinx desperately looking for a kill so that she can be able to get excited, but just not able to pull it off, as all the members of Weber State do go pretty low here. They were able to pull again once a scrappy fight and be able to come out on top despite not having quite the numbers advantage at the start. And Mundo just doing what he does best, pushing as they do take down the rest of this Nexus. This will be a game 1 going over to Weber State Esports. As a reminder, this is a best of 3 series, so we will be excited to see you guys here for game 2 shortly.
And welcome back, everyone, to game two of our Weber State Esports CLOL games, where we have Weber State Esports versus USC Esports, also known as University of South California. Southern
Yes, well,
California.
Southern California. Yes, welcome to game two. As a reminder, this is a fearless draft series, that meaning that any champion picked in the previous game is no longer available to be picked in this game. You can see those champions listed there at the semi bottom of the screen. We do have both teams on the same side, actually. Weber State will be blue side again, USC followed on the red side. We see bans following similar suit as last game, an Aphelios ban coming out first for Weber State, followed by a Jace ban from USC.
Yeah, should again, bands almost never change in Fearless. Sometimes they'll change usually in the last portion, as I'm gonna eat my words, as that's a Malphite instead of an Udyr. But usually where the bands really change is the last four bands because you've already had six champions picked, so you can ban more specific things. But I'm pretty sure the rest of the bands are going to be exactly the same. Yep, a Poppy here, and last time it was a Lucian, so let's see if it's a Lucian again for USC.
Yeah, the Gwen, Poppy, very good picks, good bans from Weber and USC respectively. They just locked out a lot of choices and a lot of hypercarry potential, as it is indeed a Lucian ban. As we mentioned, he is very strong on this patch, and Sendy, a pretty good Lucian player. He does like to be aggressive enough with him, but also has a good mind for when he needs to dash and stay away.
So, Weber State, first pick. Okay, well, this is like Weber State bread and butter first pick. There was like no hesitation on that either. It was Boris.
Yeah, Varus has been a very good multi-role character. He can be played in the top lane or, of course, in that traditional AD carry role. The top lane Varus has been very impressive this new year. However, he has been nerfed in the last patch, but Weber State is still seeing some value in him. USC does respond with a Sivir pick. Once again, Sivir is a very strong champion. She was strong last year, and she's continued to be strong with the changes that have kicked in for 80 carries in this year.
A lot of crit 80 carries that weren't doing good last year are doing a lot better this year because of the return of 200% crit damage. As Pantheon going to get locked in now? Is that jungle Pantheon? Is that top Pantheon? Is that mid Pantheon? Or is that support Pantheon? You know what? This is a Sivir mid. This is obviously ADC Pantheon.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised. Pantheon just kind of does have that flexibility, however, maybe not enough damage to play quite in an 80 carry role. Weber State does respond with a Jarvan pick. Jarvan has been very solid. He's a nice, aggressive early game jungler, lots of good crowd control, a good pick. And this Alistar pick coming in from Weber State, this is a solid choice into a Sivir. How his combo works, he has two different spells that go into knocking the Sivir up. So he can basically negate her spell shield with his WQ combo.
I will say, though, that is a Silas, and usually you don't want to pick Alistar unless you have banned out Silas because the unbreakable will on Silas is insane. What's interesting to me, though, is that Nico actually going to go ahead and get banned away by Weber State. Of course, it does kind of make sense because of the Alistar getting picked. You want to get rid of those annoying supports into him. Rai's going to get banned away from Goku. And Braum, once again, very annoying for Varus. So not surprised that that got banned out. Now, first pick of this second round. What does USC decide? Rel, okay, kind of your typical, very good with Sivir. Rel will, with the Magnet Storm, clump them together so Sivir can Boomerang, Blade, and Ricochet all over them.
Yeah, Rel just a solid pick into the Alistar as well. Weber State respecting that they are picking an Alistar by banning the Braum and the Nico. However, they're coming in with an interesting pick, a Zoe mid lane. Now, this is a pretty good choice, I feel like, into the Silas. Silas with a Zoe ult can't really do a ton as he only gets one use of it every few minutes. So not a fantastic choice. And then a Mordekaiser being locked in by Weber State. So we we have the potential to see a fun interaction between Mordekaiser and Silas, where if Silas steals the Mordekaiser ult and they both use them, then suddenly we have two people in Mordekaiser ults.
The fun thing is that if they use them in the same location, there will all of a sudden be four people in a Mordekaiser ult. The Death Realm is unanimous. It's a separate plane of existence, basically. Nar getting picked is not too surprising. But one thing I do want to highlight is the Zoe, because legends have foretold long, long ago when Goku first started with Weber State of the legendary Zoe that he played. And I am so excited because Silas likes to get up close and personal. Well, if you dash at a Zoe, good night, sweet prince.
Yeah, Weber State has a lot of great peel here. They also have a very excellent poke comp. The Jarvan may be a little bit displaced and the Mordekaiser, but they should be able to offer plenty of peel against a Gnar, a Silas, and a Pantheon that want to run at them. If the Gnar jumps in, well, Mordekaiser can just ult and keep the Gnar from being able to knock his whole team into a wall. Same with a Silas that's running at them with an Alistar ult or anything else. You can just pull them away from the enemy team, and it'll just be hunky dory. So it should be an interesting game here. Is maybe contrary to last game, USC definitely looking to go in full stop, where Weber State choosing to go with more of a poke comp.
I will say it's kind of interesting for me that the Alistair and the Jarvan, like you mentioned, want to go in, but Mordekaiser does as well. And you lock people in a Jarvan ult, they can't get away. Mordekaiser can walk up and R someone. The Jarvan ult's no longer there, and Mordekaiser's going to start beating on you.
Yeah, very true. They can be able to line that up, and I don't know. These should be very, very scrappy, interesting team fights. We'll have to see if USC can rally and be able to adjust to how Weber State does team fight. They did struggle with it a little bit last game. They let themselves get split and picked apart, but they do have I believe, the right champions to be able to try and stick together this game and see if they can pull out a victory.
The only other question I had was, is Varus going poke Varus or on hit Varus? My personal feeling this one is it's going to be poke, because you don't want to get close enough that Pantheon, Rel, or Silas can jump onto you. You want to be maintaining that distance. Also, Rel and Gnar, when he transforms, are really the only Giga tanks that USC has. Silas is a tank when he steals Alistair's ult. So until then, Varus can do a lot of damage from really far away. Also, if the spell shield is used on Sivir to avoid a Varus Q, well, now you're going to get hit by a bubble. You're going to get hit by a Mordecai. You're going to get hit by everything else. So I'm going to stop yapping, and we're going to get on the Rift and see how this plays out.
Yeah, this should be a very exciting game as we do enter the Rift immediately into a pause. So there may be a little bit of a delay here as we wait for the players to either reconnect. There might be some technical difficulty. We'll let you know as soon as we do as to what is occurring at this moment.
Now, just kind of looking at the runes here that we can see, Mordekaiser going your very classic Conqueror, fleet footwork for Gnar instead of Grasp or anything, Conqueror himself. He wants that survivability, the annoying poke in lane. Jarvan going for the Conqueror, so he's going to go more bruisey instead of full damage. Probably a Sundered Sky, the typical Xin Zhao Pantheon jungle build. I mean, we have Pantheon, so you'll see that. Conqueror on Silas, I think, is pretty interesting. He wants to go in there, those prolonged fights, but Goku choosing the electrocute, pure damage, pure blow you up. And I was wrong. Sendy deciding to go on hit has Ghost and Lethal Tempo.
Yeah, the Lethal Tempo, an interesting pickup. I believe, if he wanted to, he probably still could go poke, and maybe the Lethal Tempo is more of an aggressive early game, as we do know that if Mystiques is going in, then Sendy definitely has to follow. But it does leave if he does choose to go poke, then it will be a little bit less pressure from his Qs. So it'll be interesting to see how he still does play this. We do see both junglers posturing towards the top side, so they might be shooting for a top-down clear. The Silas choosing to get a ward in on the chickens as Jarvan does respond. This is kind of a classic setup to be able to identify where the junglers are playing. Pantheon does choose to sweep this ward away. However, the info is kind of already given. He doesn't have enough time to rotate down onto this bottom lane. as the new timers, it doesn't allow enough time for those types of rotations.
Yeah, we have some cheeky fighting going on here. Batou and the Gnar battling it back and forth. I will mention that while the Rail has Aftershock, Mystique's went for Spellbook. So he's going to have a lot of summoner spell utility. Go in and exhaust, the Ignite, the heals that already actually got used in that skirmish early. Mystique's just happy to kind of blow some summoner spells to get that cooldown lower.
Yeah, the Unsealed Spellbook has been a very popular pick, especially in the upper levels of competition, as it does just allow for so much flexibility from the supports to be able to cover dives, to be able to make rotations, and just to be able to have some extra utility in these early and mid-game fights and skirmishes. So you can see him there using the heal is probably as planned for him to be able to get that Unsealed Spellbook on rotation.
I will say it's kind of interesting that he went Q first. Most Alstars go W first and just W on demand just to get as much damage in lane early. As top lane going as rough as you could imagine, it's a melee into a ranged. The Ghost on Batou, very, very important. So now he has 3 summoner spells compared to Gnar's 2.
We do see an early gank here, though. The flash stun from the Pantheon does catch Goku out. However, Yu is here on support. Goku able to lay some damage down, and they are able to catch this Pantheon out, drawing a first blood. However, Ambitious does go back in, and he is able to secure a kill back onto Goku. But the flash pull from Yu is able to knock up the Sylas. A 2-for-1 trade here in the mid lane. Importantly, though, the Sylas is able to get a kill, so he does have that gold advantage. As there's a fight down in the bottom lane, we see the supports tagging onto each opposing AD carry as Weber State looking to take the short end of the stick on that trade. Sendy just having barely 100 HP left.
Yeah, Rel getting the crash down onto him as well as the Shattering Strike, I believe is what Rel's Q is. Means that there's a lot of damage that came down up to Mystique to simply hold the wave as best he can so Sendy can get back. But with the new way that back timing works and you get that speed buff, not going to miss too much.
Yeah, not going to miss too much indeed. The wave was kind of in an okay position for him. And honestly, I see it as Mystique's probably just trying to soak XP so he can roam sooner. He is sticking around in this lane. The Rel staying maybe longer than they're expecting. Weber State probably predicting that she would back on this timer. But she might be caught out here a little bit. She does still have an HP advantage over this Alistar, as she does decide to go in. Alistar doesn't have a lot of options. It does headbutt the Rel back. However, it does leave Sendy exposed to both the Sivir and the Rel, as USC again coming out positive on a trade here in the bot lane with the wave pushing into them.
But here in the mid lane, we see that the top lane will rotate first, but mid lane's going to rotate first for Weber State. Batou now going to Ghost. They want this kill onto the Pantheon. It's going to be donated over to Batou. Goku going to do what he can to survive. Unfortunately, getting pulled. I lied. The knockup is good, and the burn will go down onto this Gnar. That is well played. Ambitious is actually going to go hunt for Goku. Has to be careful. Luckily, he's not backing in that bush and will go ahead and get away with his life, as teleport going to be used from Gnar to get back into the top lane.
Yeah, a great play from you to be able to get the crowd control right on time into the enemy Gnar. That surely would have spelled death for them. Luckily, though, with the TP, the Gnar is able to get back to lane and shove that lane in. However, Mordekaiser should be able to maintain an XP. I don't know if advantage is the right word, but he shouldn't be able to lose too much XP here from the backs being able, from the movement speed that he does have from getting back to lane. Goku just fighting the Sylas in the mid lane, constantly throwing autos, doing a good job at trading evenly in these early skirmishes that he has here.
It is very interesting, the back and forth. It seemed like so many of these fights from USC are going to go their way and then just barely don't. Getting that one kill in the mid lane for Sylas was so important, but Weber surviving otherwise. Unfortunately, though, Pantheon now is here, but Rail is going to get blown up by a empowered piercing arrow. Once again, you here, though, beautifully in the right position to get the kill. Sivir now going to have to decide, do they kill the Alistar or not? I have to just... Okay, and actually, Goku just going to get a solo kill in the mid lane. One of the things I was going to shout out is Mystique's ability to flash, headbutt the Pantheon back into the rest of Weber State. It was well played, very good. Batao now level 6, but so is Nar. Just, top laners doing top lane things.
Yeah, top laners doing top lane things indeed. They both have a pretty even lane state up here. The definite gold advantage from Weber State coming from this bottom half of the map. Well, I don't even know if bottom half of the map is the right word, is as the jungler in you does have a large portion of this. Weber State almost up 3,000 gold here by 6 minutes. This Gnar attempting to chase down this Mordekaiser, however, doing a very good job at not overplaying it, as Mystiques has snuck into a bush here. The Gnar is not aware, so he might be able to get a good gank off and allow for the Mordekaiser to pull ahead a little bit.
Though Silas, we saw, was running top, so is Pantheon. They're looking for some things. Batao in a little bit of trouble. But here comes the cow as the Gnar is used to get away. The Ignite going to go down, but that is now a Death Realm going on. Gnar not having too much, but Batao going to do everything he can. Still has his shield to survive with the cow coming in for the kill. Pantheon in a very rough position here. We'll go ahead and flash away, but Jarvan will drop the Cataclysm and secure the kill onto Pantheon, and plates will go over to Batao. Silas, unfortunately, not continuing that roam up that could have really turned the tides. And once again, we just casually have you at 4-0 on a jungler.
Yeah, a good heads up play for you to rotate to that top lane. The Pantheon was predicting some of the play, or he was trying to support the Gnar there with a good timing on the Gnar bar. But unfortunately, Mordekaiser in the Death Realm just able to put down enough damage, and then with the support of his teammates able to pull off that, or a couple of those crucial kills to extend this lead again from Weber State.
And the important thing about Jarvan getting all these kills is that Jarvan likes to gank and usually falls behind in farm. But you don't have to farm your camps if you're farming champions.
Yeah, very true. He is ahead in the farm as well. We do see this Gnar still attempting to bully the Mordekaiser. When Mordekaiser doesn't have his ult, Gnar does have a lot of ability to chase down and apply pressure. The Mordekaiser doesn't have a big enough lead at this point, at least with no completed items, to be able to fully just dominate this lane quite yet, especially with Gnar going Merc Treads as a first item. He does have a lot of pressure there still.
And funny enough, I think Batao is going actually the new Mordekaiser build. Granted, everyone's going the new build, Dusk and Dawn Mordekaiser. As I will talk about this later, as the spell shield coming out does exactly what it's supposed to, stops the headbutt, but not the pulverize. Sivir R is going to go ahead and be used, as well as some other abilities to try to get them out. And again, Mystique's just being an absolute nuisance. You see him even emoting. Gosh, I love Mystique's.
Yeah, his aggressive play fits perfectly into this kind of chaotic style that Weber State likes to play. He was able to get a successful combo on both of the bot laners here. However, they did have the support from the Pantheon. Silas had the ability to roam down, so they just didn't quite have enough momentum there to get a play down. As Goku does have a lot of pressure here to be able to put down onto the Silas, doesn't quite have enough to take him out, but he does have an Ignite floating in his back pocket, so he might be able to do something here in the next fight. Ooh, he just barely misses the Sleepy Trouble bubble onto the Silas. If that would have hit, it surely would have been a kill.
Yeah, Silas, though, still has to be careful because a Wandering Paddle Star will probably kill him, as he's doing a very good job of being cautious around where these bubbles can hit. But, that's Goku's actual Ignite, not just his spell charm Ignite. As in the top lane, there was a gank onto Gnar, which led to Batao getting another kill. You picking Gnar into Batao. Batao knows these matchups by heart. He is an avid Gnar player.
Yeah, he has a very good Gnar indeed. Unfortunately, not working out here for the Gnar. Gnar's kind of a hard champion to play from behind, especially into something like a Mordekaiser, as I'm picturing Mordekaiser does finish this Dusk and Dawn on this back. So this is going to be a very difficult game for him to be able to play moving forward. I might want to see from USC maybe attempting to do some lane swaps or something to relieve some of this pressure and maybe bring back some of their laners that are behind.
The hardest thing about it is in this new season, Riot has killed lane swaps. The moment you lane swap before finishing your quest, you are never going to finish that quest.
Yeah, very true. I don't believe, do we have a quest progress thing on this spectator mode? As we do have a fight in the mid lane, we do see the Pantheon ulting on top of an Alistar. Alistar using the Unbreakable Will. Goku being chased down by the Rel. However, he does manage to survive as Weaver State just jumps back in with the Jarvan, able to apply a lot of crowd control, eliminating Silas and Rel, followed by Sivir. Pantheon, the only surviving member. However, he looks like he will just be crowd controlled to death. And that is a triple kill for Sendy here in this mid lane scrap.
Yeah, with one more kill going over to Jarvan, that Cataclysm doing so much damage, as Patau just feeling comfortable to just proxy the Gnar. First dragon of the game will go over to Weaver State. One of the things I have wanted to talk about is, why is Dusk and Dawn so good? Why do you see so many people build it? Well, it's an AP Sheen item that after you cast a spell, it applies on hits twice on the next auto. Mordekaiser loves that because you hit your E and then auto once and you've procced your passive.
Yeah, it's a very good on these champions. Riot kind of made some adjustments this last patch where they toned the damage down on the Sheen proc. Is another fight here in the mid lane. We do see this the Silas trying to go in on to the Zoe, but he does just have the support from Mystiques there, so they're able to secure that kill. We do see how devastating this top lane fight is now for this Gnar. As Batao did pop his ultimate and wasn't able to quite secure the kill, but it was definitely very dangerous for him. Pantheon is here to be able to try and fight the Mordekaiser. A very good shove back from Batao, popping the shield to survive. He might just be able to kill this Pantheon, but I doubt he gets both. Nope, the Gnar ult does come through, and they do get a shutdown back onto the Gnar.
Yeah, just unfortunate timing. Batao not quite knowing it's there. But once again, you see it. Sivir correctly does the spell shield. It just doesn't matter against an Alistar.
Yeah, it's kind of a rough combo there to try and avoid. She just doesn't have the utility to avoid it, and she was just caught out there a little bit as Alistar does roam through that tri-bush. Weaver State, so far, a pretty commanding lead here. We've got a 7,000 gold lead here at 13 minutes into the game. They've gotten the first dragon, they've gotten the 3 void grubs, so they're in a pretty good position. We see the Silas just trying to go in on the Zoe, but he just doesn't have enough to be able to put it through. He does manage to survive with an actually pretty good use of the Zoe ult, jumping into her to dodge the projectile. However, he just doesn't have enough to be able to survive in this lane where Zoe has a completed item and he doesn't. Sendy is being 2v1'd here in this bottom lane. However, he does have enough damage to be able to execute the Rel. Sivir trying to play mind games with him. They both have wards on each other, and he just might have enough damage, but no, he was He couldn't get enough mana to cast his Q and be able to kill the Sivir, but it doesn't matter a ton as the Jarvan and the Alistar are there to be able to finish it off. Now, importantly, some big shutdowns going over to some members of UCS. The gold lead, though, however, is not reflecting this, as Weaver State's able to take some turrets in response and be able to shut down that advantage. Goku is caught out here a little bit from a Gnar rotating down. The Pantheon and Gnar combo able to eliminate him here. As Batao's looking to try and ult this Pantheon, he believes that he can be able to get a kill on him if he is able to catch him. But Pantheon using the plants is able to escape. But Mystiques would have a word about that. The Mordekaiser does catch up. The Alistar crowd control very well layered. Sendy again fighting in the mid lane. This Jarvan just absolutely one-shotting the Sivir as Sendy does come up for the final kill. Batao now finally using this Death Realm, picking up a kill on the Gnar. Just kind of falling apart here a little bit for USC. Gnar does manage to survive, very good spacing, and then a good flash on the transformation does keep him alive despite members of Weaver State rotating for that kill.
Yeah, but once again, you're just seeing beautiful gameplay by Goku on the Zoe, being a nuisance. Unfortunately, Mystiques has gone a little too deep and got shut down. You don't usually see a shutdown on the support.
Yeah, 500 gold shutdown going over as Goku getting that Sleepy Trouble bubble on Goku, not even needing to rebound. The Paddle Star just throws it straight at him, able to finish that kill. Now, this is a point where we've seen Weaver State maybe gets a little too cocky in previous games, and they do overplay their hand a little bit. You saw it from Mystiques there. Well, this is a potential point of failure for this esports organization where they need to just keep their advantage, not overplay their hands, and they should be able to secure this game out. Unfortunately, we've seen some close games from them in the past. As Yu just jumps in and he smite steals the Rift Herald, and now the rest of Weber State is showing up. Yu might go down. Okay, he does eventually go down here, but two members of USC do trade their life for it. As the Silas does show up, he throws a Verisult down, but he does not want to take a piece of this pie. It's too much to chew, as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble does hit him, and now Weber State's here with enough crowd control, but a great flash from the Alistar combo does keep him alive here. Goku, however, just continuing to follow up. They might even just tower dive this tier 2 as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble once again does hit him. And Mystiques with the crowd control, Sendy with the follow-up, and Weber State is knocking on a tier 2 here at 16 minutes.
Yeah, the Spell Thief use from Goku is insane. The amount of flashes that were dropped, he flashes and to get that first Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Sendy, unfortunately, going to go down here. A flash used to secure the kill by Pantheon will kill Sendy, but tower's going down. Goku gonna go ahead and back here. He has the Empowered Recall from his completed quest boots, as Mystique's just going to try to go for a leisurely little stroll, probably going to do a little bit of a headbutt to get him away, but will end up dying. Though, Sivir getting caught here by Yu from the Cataclysm, will try to get out now, but is alone. Goku is a ways off. If Jarvan can get back to his spells, he will be able to do quite a bit. And here comes the cavalry in Goku.
Yeah, I like this tempo swing that USC was trying to take advantage of. A lot of times teams will become timid when they do know that they have this much of a gold deficit, but running down the mid lane and telling Sendy that he's not allowed to be there, as well as getting a kill on Mystiques, is a good push from them to try and regain some ground here in the game. Unfortunately, though, they do stay a little bit too long in some spots, and Weber State is able to group up. Now, we'll have to see if they can be able to rally their forces here. It's kind of some crucial points where USC needs to decide, okay, what objectives do we give up and how can we be able to regain some gold here in this game. As you see, overall, USC has only taken off 3 total turret platings, while Weber State has taken 4 total turrets. So there is a lot of available gold here as we see Mystique's crowd controlling the Gnar. The Gnar is in his small form though and has extra movement speed, so he's able to escape. But there's a lot of potential for USC to come back. They just need to be able to put their eggs in the right basket and be able to read where Weber State is going to be in their chaotic movements.
I will say, Gnar needs to pay that minion that jumped in front of the bubble some money, because that saved his life. Unfortunately for the Sivir, Yu is here, gonna just do everything, and this on-hit Varus is going crazy as just absolutely demolishing. Goku hitting every single bubble in existence. That's all she wrote, Silas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is just a 4-for-0 trade here from Weber State. This Jarvan really has the Sivir's number. She has 7 deaths, and I believe at least 6 of them are from a Jarvan Cataclysm. He, with his current advantage, just is able to absolutely one-shot her. Well, not one-shot, but he does take about 80% of her health with just one combo. Weber State looking to maybe even apply a lot of pressure here. They have some potential to end. Mystiques is caught out here a little bit. He may go down as he has a lot of movement speed, but the flash is there and he sidesteps the Gnar Q. Weber State able to take a lot here and just walk out for free. Sendy maybe even being able to pick up an extra kill. He does appear to be slightly overstaying though. The Mordekaiser's allowed to be there as he can just Death Realm and protect himself. As Weber State does rally the troops, Mordekaiser does go down. The Rel does trade it back. Weber State, however, able to kill the Silas as he popped the Death Realm. The Gnar is also eliminated, and the Jarvan sweeps in to kill the Pantheon, and once again, this poor Sivir.
Yeah, just unfortunate timing, and with all the minions here, Weber doesn't even need a bear. This is a pre-20 game. I haven't seen one of these in a while. Weber State closing this one out in a dominating fashion here in Game 2, as they will take the series 2-0. We do thank you so much for joining us for our League of Legends games, our varsity games this evening. We hope that you will join us again on Wednesday for our Rocket League games. And for those of you who want more League of Legends, we will be back Thursday with our junior varsity games. Thank you so much.